Hello and welcome to Conversations with Rev G. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, aka Rev G, and I'm here live every Monday night at 8 p.m. on WEMS Radio. We're live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. Each week, I come at 8 p.m. with guests from all walks of life and with different perspectives. We talk about life, we talk about love, and we talk about spirituality. We talk about spirituality from a practical point of view. How can it support you in your everyday life? What spiritual practices are in your personal toolkit? And I talk about the spiritual toolkit because the spiritual toolkit is personal to each one of us. There are different practices and different go-to things that we use when we need clarity, when we're stressed, when we need to just shift. We all have the different practices that work for us. My guests, they share what practices work for them. We talk about their spiritual journey. We also talk about what's going on in the world with them. What contributions can they make? We tell our stories so that we can support people when we talk about the things that we've gone through and the things that we do, and we hope that we can support you. Each week we talk about the spiritual journey. And with me, one of the things that I like to support you in is just finding that joy and living your best life. And I also like to support you in doing all of that with grace and ease. So every day you can find me on Facebook, on YouTube with inspirational messages. I'm also on Instagram as Rev Grenetta Mason. I'm excited today because I have a really special guest. I have Pilar Wilkins. She's an educator. She's a community organizer. She's a youth activist, and she's a mother. I'm excited to have her here to talk to us today about what's going on in the community and sharing with us all the things that she's doing with the youth. Hello, Pilar.
Hey, G, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm exhausted.
Yeah. I'm sure with everything that you're doing. As we were saying earlier, you just completed like your sixth food distribution.
Yes.
I know you're a native Harlem girl, and you're working in Harlem. Tell us about how did you get started with the food distribution and this being your sixth one? And what's the success of it? Just give us some insights about what that looks like.
Sure, great. So good evening, everybody. Thank you, Rev G, for the invite. I feel honored. No pressure. You were great. I love your opening. It was so spiritual. I loved it. But I'm with an organization called OSG, Off School Grounds, and we had teamed up with Think Watts from California, and they did a food distribution in Dykeman last year. Then one of the principals from OSG had a food distribution at her school in Brooklyn. And I was like, you know what? I could do this in Harlem. I can definitely get some food into Harlem. I can, break down one of those barricades so that hunger is not an issue for the people in Harlem. Being an educator for 21 years, I know that hunger could be an issue. It could be an obstacle that our people need to get over so we can accomplish things. So I spoke to the organizers from Food Bank for New York City, and I asked them, could they come to my school?
Okay.
So it took about 2 months, and we started June of this year, and this was our sixth one. So
okay, so they donate all the food, and then you just set it up for them to bring the food, and you do the distribution.
Yes.
I know you mentioned OSG, right? That's the official Off School Ground Coalition.
Yes.
talk about how I know they've been around. How did that? I think it started in 2020. How did that get started, and what are they doing?
So a synopsis of how it got started. Pandemic happened,
Mm,
um, and principals needed somebody to converse with that understood their passion for their children, who understood, um, how to encourage children. What else needs to happen, just to converse with somebody who was on the same playing field.
mhm,
And Dr. Dennis McKeezy, he leads a group of dynamic principals and leaders to just make sure that all of our babies that look at like us,
mhm,
all the babies that we service, that we serve to the best of our ability, and
mhm,
we give them every opportunity. Anything that's out there, finance, book drives, food drives, whatever it is that the communities of these children need, we want to make sure that they have it.
So it's really a community outreach group when you say off grounds, off school grounds,
I
right?
like that. I like that community outreach group. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. We're making sure that the principals and the administrators are more than just educational leaders. They are community leaders.
And I think that's important too, to really get out in the community where the kids are and understand what's happening in the community, because you talk about what really impacts youth. And I know you are a youth advocate, and it's so important to understand what's happening outside of school, right? In
Yes.
the community, to be able to support them in all the ways that you can. And I know as a youth advocate, what are some of the things that you've been doing around the community to support the youth of Harlem?
So one thing, just top notch, is I'm the same person outside of the school that I
Mm,
am in the school. Because when the
mhm,
students see you outside and you switch up, they can't take you seriously when you're at school. So
mhm,
being the same inside and outside, loving them the same inside and outside. And then
mhm,
talking about love, I love all over my kids,
mhm, mhm,
Um, I want them with the kindness and the hugs and the discipline. I want them to know that there's a fine balance there that's called love. It's
mhm,
not just
mhm,
that you get away with everything, but I'm actually making sure that you understand why something has to go this way, and why you have to do whatever task it is that you're asked.
mhm,
I am the secretary of the 25th Precinct Community Council.
mhm,
So I get to hear from a lot of different community members in East Harlem where I work.
mhm,
We get to hear from the police. We get to hear from just store owners.
mhm,
And what I would love to see is more students coming in and saying what issues they have, so that the police can hear, what issues they see from their eyes.
mhm,
I have sat with the East Harlem Consortium, and that's just different components of East Harlem coming together and just making positive change in the community. I'm
mhm,
just out there. I talk to the parents, I talk to the
mhm,
community, because in order for us to build the minds of our children or to cultivate their genius, we have to be a community. That whole "it takes a village," it's true.
mhm,
Every
mhm,
single person, from the store owner to the NYPD, everybody takes part in raising the children.
mhm. That really is important. And I think, since you said for 21 years, what I feel like the youth today have so much that they're dealing with. When you look at pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, what are some of the different shifts you've seen? And do you feel that we now have to create new ways of being with our youth since then?
So I work with middle school students.
Okay.
And middle school, sixth, seventh, and eighth graders,
Mhm.
10 to 13-year-olds, they're going to be the same all the time. They think they know
Mm.
everything. They have to, you know, walk on the fine line. They see the line. They're going to walk on the line. They want to just
Mhm.
see what you're going to do if they tiptoe over the line. They're going to do that.
Mhm.
But more social emotional issues have risen since the pandemic. Now, that could be in part that they spent time with their family that they didn't get to spend time with before, and there was a lot of chaos. It could be that, just that not being with your friend, little things like that can increase anxiety and such. But everything was on a sleeve now. There was no person to just confidently say something. There was nobody to just, let me talk about my problems. So let me rewind a little bit. At my school, we're community school, and we have a program called Partnership with Children, and they have social workers. So students were assigned social workers if their IEP said that they need some type of counseling. But we also had enough counselors, so if students needed to talk about any issue that they had somebody to go to. When you're home from the pandemic, who do you talk to? Those people aren't around as much anymore. We tried it, but they're not as around they're not around as much anymore. And then social media kind of just sucked the life out of our kids. So now that they're back in school, it's like, all right, you can't be on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook every day. You actually have to commune with people. You actually have to sit and socialize. So it's like now we're trying to get people acclimated to something that we had before. And yes, we're back in brick and mortar, but things have changed. So we have to find out, how do we continue to grow our students? What do we have to change? And a lot of it is just talking to them and allowing them to talk.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk about 6th and 7th graders, right? And we're talking about how their mental stability and their mental health, and it's early because they've been traumatized at this point. It's early that we should have these interventions, right, to support them. What kind of measures do you see happening that's different, that's going to support this whole generation of kids through this?
Well, because it takes the entire village to raise the children, parenting programs like the EPIC Project, shout out to Toya Carter, they are looking to help the parents parent. How to allow the children to come to you and ask questions, how to respond to children, how to just be around your child. So starting with the parenting, that will help. So parents are more gentle because parents have their issues too. They went through a pandemic too. They went through some type of crisis that they never thought that they were going to have. And as an adult, I'm pretty sure it was more harsh on our parents than most of our children. So working with the parents and then having more social emotional training for our teachers. We know that every teacher is not going to be empathetic, but you can learn how to pass the buck, so to speak, so that that child can be serviced, so that that child can be loved on by the proper, channels. We have to also give the students the opportunity to talk as well. Put students at the forefront. Let them lead a class. Let them lead a book review. Give them some more freedoms and just let them know it's going to be okay. We're all here together.
Yeah. I think that's really important. And this EPIC group you're talking about is for parents. That's what the EPIC is for, parents. Supporting the parents, right?
Supporting the parents, yes.
Yeah, that was a really important point too. As you said, the parents went through a lot, so it was a shift for everybody during that time. So how to even parent these kids now, right? Too, can also be an issue. You are a math teacher. What was that like? How you started in math? How did you become a math teacher?
Okay, I feel like this is I'm under the light right now. So truth be told, I did not want to teach
at all.
That's not something I wanted to do. My mom was an educator. She retired after 30 something years as a principal. I did not want to do education, but I got pregnant while I was in college, and my mother was like, here you go get your file number. But I liked math. I remember my junior year of high school, I was in trigonometry and I was the top of my class.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into calculus and I was like, I'm not sure about this anymore. But I went to college and I continued on, and I majored in mathematics with a concentration in computer science. And I realized computer science wasn't for me, so I was going to stick to the math.
Mm-hmm.
And I also minored in psychology. So I was on the path. I just didn't know what was at the end of it. I kind of knew I was going to get into teaching because there's a lot of educators in my family.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, and I like math.
Mm-hmm.
I like math. And you have to one like the subject.
Right.
And you also have to want to get that eureka feeling from kids like, oh, that's what
But
that
they
means.
got it, right.
That's what I get. You have to have the combination to do it.
Yeah, I have a degree in math also, but I went the other way. I got my MBA, I went into banking, I went into computers. So that was the route that I went. And now that I'm in education, I work at an educational opportunity center. I'm always tutoring math, right? I'm always like, yeah, let me have, because the adults that come to my school are getting their high school equivalency, and math is one of the subjects that they have the hardest time with. So I was volunteering and tutoring, and then all of a sudden math changed, right? And I was like, oh,
this is different.
right. And I still haven't really learned the new way of teaching math and how the kids are learning math. But what I find with my students is more of working with them to just embrace it. Like, try not to overthink it, learn the rules, don't make logic out
Learn
of
the vocabulary.
Right. It's sort of like I tell there's you have to teach people not just the math, but the feelings they have about it. Everybody is saying, "Oh, math is so hard." Well, maybe not. We play. I think I love math because it's like playing a game. There's always a challenge there, right? But people were turned off so early.
Yeah.
Math, and I think it's because if you don't get the basics early, then it builds and it builds and it builds, and then we have a whole bunch of people not doing math, right?
Yeah, and vocabulary, like I said, that's a big one for me. Like when you're teaching math, you have to know the vocabulary, and when you're teaching the students, you have to use the vocabulary. And when the students, say flip instead of reciprocate, you need to make sure that they say it correctly so it sticks in their mind. That whole project-based learning. It's the same with conversation. If I'm going to converse with you about math, then I have to converse with you with the math language, right, so that, the concept sticks. And then also translating the math, I'm using vocabulary words like commutative. So I'm going to talk about a commute on a bus, how things move, or associative property. And I talk about association of groups of people at a lunch table, just so that they can make the connection. And some people aren't taking the time to make the connection.
To make it like real life for them, right? Because you always hear, oh, when am I ever going to use math? What is it good for, right? Those are the kind of things, right? And the idea of making it real is really important. So what are you are you teaching now? What are you doing now? What are your goals around that?
So I'm the dean of Renaissance School of the Arts.
Oh, okay.
The dean of culture and activities. So, and I plan everything for the 8th grade. So the senior trip, the prom, graduation pictures, I plan that for the 8th grade. I assist with our community school director, and we plan, activities for the students monthly. I lead the morning meeting, where we just come together as a family and we celebrate each other in the school. I'm just out in the community, just trying to connect the students with themselves. I feel like there's such a disconnect when they get to like 10 to 13 years old. Their parents are making sure that they're latchkey kids instead of holding them closer. They're expected to do so much at that age when they're really going through a lot. they're going through growth spurts. Different things are growing. They're smelling different. So at that age, they need to be hugged and held until it's going to be okay, and so you can lead them up. So gradually they can walk out your arms. At that age, parents are like, go, and I'll see you later. They need to hold them closer.
So, would you say that your program is unique in embracing them in that way, or?
I mean, I deal with discipline, but I try to have conversations with my students. I don't want to say that I'm a social worker because I'm not. I'm not a psychologist, but I listen and I respond accordingly. Sometimes there are things that you need to say to students just so they understand, and sometimes you have to curtail it a little bit so they get the meaning, but you can't say it directly to them yet because you have to know that they're not ready for that information yet. So I treat every student as they need to be treated, all with respect. But some I have to love a little harder. Some I have to be harder on. But they all know that I love them, even if they suck their teeth at me today. I'll still say I love you. I don't care.
Yeah, I know. I think you said something about being a mother has really taught you how to embrace your students or be with your students. Talk about that.
So I have two sons, Terrence and Khalil. They're 22 and 17. My 22-year-old is more laid back, quiet, doesn't say too much, but he's very observant because he can repeat back to you everything you said and you don't even think he was listening. A lot of students like that. They're seeing, they don't think that, nobody thinks that they're actually listening, but they are, different learners. Whereas my other son, they make them second for a reason. He is very adventurous. He doesn't mind taking a train to school. He will go across to another borough to go to a party. He's very smart in school. Not that my oldest isn't, but he's very smart in school. He's an extrovert. He plays basketball. He's just a lot. He's rambunctious. But when he was younger, he had roid rage. And how I found he got in trouble a lot. He was suspended a lot. And I even took him to be evaluated. I was like, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know, And even the school was like, he's our smartest kid, but, he's always getting in trouble. And it was roid rage.
What you said? It was what?
Roid rage. He's an asthmatic, so it was too much. Roid rage.
Roid rage. Oh,
yes.
Okay. I didn't know. I've never heard of that.
Yes. So I didn't want to be that parent, that educator who was that parent who said, not my kid. I researched let's see what's going on. All right. He does this, that, and the third. Okay, yes, he takes prednisone every time. Okay, and this, okay, maybe roid rage. He got an evaluation. They were like, Miss, nothing is wrong with him. Then I took him to a pulmonologist. He was taking too much steroids. So mommy stayed on top. So, just knowing how I had to deal with getting through to see what was the issue so that I could rectify it, I have to take the same path with my students and parents. I'll talk to parents like, look, you know how your student behaves. Have you tried this? Maybe you should try that. Just trying to talk with them instead of talking at them. Make them feel like they have somebody here that they can confide in just so that they can help cultivate their genius.
I was just thinking about it too. Recently, a lot of teachers are really upset, a lot frustrated, feeling, I guess, not worthy or feeling like, unappreciated. Have you seen the results of all of that? Because listening to you is just it's so wonderful. The teachers, the things that you're doing and the way you're dealing with the students, it made me think about the teachers who are on the other end of that at this point.
It's not that I'm not frustrated. It's just that it's not the kid's fault. So I can't blame it on them and I can't be angry with them. You know, the attitudes and things that they have. I've seen your parents. I've had conversations with them. I understand, you know, but we got to get through this work. We have to do this stuff, you know. And there's some teachers who just don't have it. There's teachers who have been in the trenches. You know, they come from the old school of teaching. They come from that. If I see you on the street, I'm going to treat you the same way I treat you when you're in the classroom. I came from that era. You know, I came right at the end of that. You have a lot of teachers that can't deal past their social emotional issues. Therefore, they're not able to deal with the students' social emotional issues. Now, I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, but you need to check that. If you're here to educate children, you got to check your feelings at the door, and you may have to go get a therapist. I don't have a therapist personally, but I go to the gym 3 days a week, in class and weightlifting. That's my therapy. And you'll see me post on Instagram, Spin Sauna City, Big KD therapy. That's my therapy. That's how I have to let it go. So it's not that I don't get frustrated, because I do, because sometimes some of the behaviors of the kids are just repetitive. It's like, are we doing this again today? Like, you just did this yesterday. We just had a conversation. And it's going to be like that, because you have to talk to them 255 times about the same thing. And it's not until they leave the school that everything that you taught them has finally gotten to them. Like, you know what? You were right. You know what? I knew that. I knew that.
So, yeah, you know, I think about, like, is there the great exodus where they're leaving? The teachers are retiring in large numbers, moving to different careers. Is there a shortage of educators?
I don't know the exact numbers or anything, but to my knowledge, yes, there's a shortage. People moved out of the city. You know, after the pandemic, it was like, well, I'm going to go to my house in Florida that I have. Just stay down there. You know, people have moved out of the city. There's charter schools. There's remote learning. There's all different types of ways that a child can learn. You know, some people opted for homeschool. So, you know, there's a teacher shortage. We even have a social worker shortage. I think the social worker shortage, which is definitely needed, is worse than the teacher shortage. Like, we need somebody to talk to the students.
You needed more than you had before, and then to lose what you have can really, right. Yeah, that is interesting, because when we think about how do we take care of the kids, how do we really take care of them? What do they really need at this point? And it's the same with us too. What do we really need? You know, when I talk about spirituality, and I talk about it from the point of view of, how does it support us? How does it support us through everything that we go through every day? What practices, you know? And you have mentioned that you go to the gym 3 times a week. As I've been talking to different people on the show, a lot of people use creative outlets also to support them in whatever they need. So let's shift a bit and talk about, tell us about your spiritual journey. You grew up in the church. That's how I
I know I was baptized Methodist, Zion Church in Harlem. And I remember going to church here and there as a little girl, here and there. I remember when I was in about high school maybe. I was part of a Baptist church because I like to sing. So I was part of the church. My sister was going with me. Then my sister stopped because they were real strict with how young ladies dressed in the church. So it was just me traveling all the way to the Bronx to go to church. Then I stopped going there because, you know, I was in high school and I wanted to hang out.
Exactly.
Travel was a lot. I picked back up. I went to Catholic school too. So I was at Catholic church for a few years as well, but that's another story. Then I got with a church that's in Harlem. And I don't know if for some reason the name is escaping me right now, but I was there. I stopped going because my thing about church is people are selling too much. Like the pastor was always selling his book, and I had to learn. I'm coming to church to get what I need out of church.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to buy the book.
Mm-hmm.
That may be a way that he needs to support himself or whatever ventures he has. So I had to learn that. My thing was I always wanted to learn the Bible. I like to listen to Joel Austin because I like when he interprets certain books of the Bible. And I know that's his interpretation, but he makes it, I can envision it. So it's like, oh, okay, all right. Like, I think the one that stuck out to me the most was the Book of Ruth. And he just like kind of visualized, he had me visualizing. I was like, okay, I like that. So at the church that I went to, I did get baptized again. I got baptized Baptist. And I was in the church, and then I moved, and the church had closed for a little bit, so it got spotty. And then just listening to like different people and talk about Christianity and, versus, religions that we've had pre-slavery that still exist today. So just I'm at a spiritual level where I love God. I know that God exists. And I know that I'm here with a purpose. Not that I may have fully figured that out, but I know there's a purpose. I know that I am loved. I know that I am covered. And I know that I can't do anything without God. So I will drop to my knees in a minute. I try to pray as often as possible because I want to pray the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't want to just be like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, get it, and then God's gone. No, I want this, I got it. God, thank you. And talk about, we have to be careful when we ask for what we want, because not everybody's prepared for what we are going to get. That whole thing about I don't want to be a teacher, God was like, all right, y'all like to do whatever you want to do, but I already got this planned out, right? So math, you're gonna do a little psychology, and you're gonna be a teacher. Okay.
Life has a way of sending you right to be a teacher, right? Although you're like, no, I don't want to, I don't want to be that. But it's worked out for you. What are your like aspirations? When people work in the community, do you have any political aspirations, or how do you see kind of? I know you're still young and still working through all that. How do you see that? You have any aspirations?
Well, I want to open up a laundromat.
A laundromat.
I do because
why you pick a laundromat?
Right? Folding clothes is like a therapy for me. Washing, folding clothes. Yes. So I used to do the house's laundry. My mother, my sister, my stepfather. I would do the house laundry, wash and fold. I used to watch the Koreans fold. Like, wow, that's cool. So I washed the clothes, fold them up. I got a job at a laundromat because I knew how to fold. So it's just something that's comforting for me. And everybody needs a laundromat. Everybody washes their clothes. They're elderly who can't wash their clothes, so they send their clothes out. There's people who don't want to spend time in the laundromat, so they send their clothes out. So it's something that's needed in the community.
Yeah, I get that. It's just interesting. A laundromat, you will always have business, and people will always want to wash their clothes.
Yes,
but you're going to be folding clothes. She's like, you love.
I mean,
right? I mean, I just can imagine, right? You got the laundromat, and I'm gonna say no.
Maybe for like the first year or two, I will be folding clothes because I need to, build the business before I, just leave and trust somebody else to do it. But that's just one of the things. I just knew that was a shocker because anytime I say laundromat, they like a laundromat. Where did you get that from?
And then you said because you want to fold clothes. So I was going a whole nother way about like, they're always people always.
I mean, that's something that keeps that business sustainable. That's something that is necessary.
Right. Exactly.
But I do want a soup kitchen. I do want to continue to make sure that I can feed communities, and I'm going to do as much as I can to feed Harlem, but I want to spread it throughout, New York to make sure that people have food. There's food. People have farms. There's food.
Mm-hmm.
If people shared what they had, it would just be so much better. I do want to open up a school, but not a traditional school,
Mm-hmm.
something for 16 to 25-year-olds and, vocational schools. Because
Oh,
not everybody is going to go to college. Not
right.
everybody has the mindset to sit through 4 years. A lot of people don't have the money. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have skills, you could do a lot with that. There are a lot of people who didn't go to college who are very successful because they had a skill that was necessary. We need mechanics. We need plumbers. I don't care how far in the future we go. We need those people.
We need, and I guess it's still encouraging people to take those jobs and see them as viable jobs,
Yes.
right? To do, right? When I think about all the different types of jobs that are out there. My school, for instance, I'm the Educational Opportunity Manhattan Educational Opportunity Center. We're EOC right in Harlem on 125th Street.
Mhm.
We offer allied health programs. So I thought of that when you said people want, not everybody goes to college. So we have like CNA,
Mhm.
we offer phlebotomy, EKG, we offer like security officer training, OSHA.
Right.
So we are offering programs for people to go to work.
Mhm.
We do and we pay for all of our programs are free and we pay for certification. And I'm always talking about it because people don't necessarily know that it's there.
Mhm.
And that was one of the things that I like about what you're doing is like be it out there in the community, letting people know what resources are available to them, right? Because if they don't know, they don't know where to go and how to survive in the community. I know you're connected with what was the other nonprofit that you worked with the kids?
Um, Harlem Nerds.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was like, I didn't want to say it was nerds, but Harlem nerds,
Harlem
right?
Nerds, nurturing the education of responsible and determined scholars. Yes, so I'm not going to talk too much about Harlem Nerds, but shout out to Netta and Taiwan Austin. They are also a part of Harlem Nerds, and right now, like we just won a basketball. Well, Netta won a basketball tournament, the Kickaholics. So that
Mhm,
was a really good thing, and it was a highlight for Harlem Nerds. And just working more with like sports right now in Harlem Nerds.
mhm,
But I plan to venture out and do more connecting the community with the resources that we have. So
mhm.
I do have a business that
Okay,
will prayerfully be dropping in June of next year.
okay.
I will premiere it. I'll make sure I come back to your show so I can say it first here.
Mhm,
But yes, but I definitely want to continue to connect the community to the resources. So right now, on a smaller scale, I have an email of about 80 community members that I consistently email each month just to say what's out there, the GED programs, whatever information. So people can send me their information at pilar.wilkins@gmail.com,
mhm,
and I will definitely continuously share the information with other people in the community so that we can have this resource that
mhm.
everybody can get to.
Everything that you do, it sounds really great. How can people get involved, though, also with the different projects that you're working on?
Well, follow me on social media at
Mhm,
miss.principal, PLE_P. Or you can, if you have any questions, you can email me at pilar.wilkins@gmail.com.
mhm,
I check my Instagram is here on my phone. So if it goes off, I see it.
mhm,
You can also follow my school at RSAMS377 on Instagram. So if we post activities, you usually see who's hosting the activity that's on there. But Just follow me. I do a lot of stuff under the radar, but if you email me, I'll make sure that you're into my email group, and you'll get any information about any activities that I'm doing in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. So that it's about having people be aware of what's going on, aware of what services and programs are out there for them. I
Yes.
think that's really, really an important part of like being in the community. And I think you're on like the community, the 25th precinct, working within the community to make change. So, and I'm sure a lot of people would love to do that and not necessarily know how to get started and how to be of support, because I think we can volunteer some of the time. It doesn't have to be like we're there all the time, but at what point can we make a contribution and volunteer?
You can also, for your different selective neighborhoods, you can always find out what's the precinct for your neighborhood, and then find out the information about the community council. You can go right to the precinct and find out the information about your local community council. You
Mm-hmm.
can go to the CEC meetings, the education meetings. You can go to the CEC meetings so you can be a part of the community. You can research the consortium meetings for your district. You
Mm-hmm.
can go online and just search your district and see what different types of meetings they have. They have meetings for youth services, education, parks departments, things like that. So, everything is on Google. Everything
Right.
is there. So
Right.
you can, if you have a community school, talk to your local community school and see what connections they have with the community. They have different CBOs that are in the building, and a lot of those CBOs are located right in your district. So you can find out more information from them as well.
Yeah, because one of the things for us, and I'm a part of our recruitment and outreach team,
Mm-hmm.
is for people to know that we're there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not a storefront. We're inside the Harlem State Office building. So there's no sign there saying, oh, here, here we are as a school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important for us to connect with the different CBOs and go to the community board meetings and meet people like you who who in the community and can let people know that we're there.
Yes.
We did a lot of, we were at all of the street fairs and all that prior to COVID. And since then, we've just seen a huge drop, right, in the number of people that are taking our programs. So now we're looking to like really come up with new innovative ways of letting people know we're there. um, it used to be at the corner passing out flyers, right? Just doing things to really let people know. And now what we're working on is doing virtual presentations. The whole idea, I really love the school because the mission of it is to support underserved people in getting employment. We do high school equivalency, we do college prep, and then we have programs where you can get jobs. So just
Please
really,
send the flyer to me, and I will definitely put it in the group.
yeah, I would definitely, I'm glad for that contact, knowing that you're out in the community. And that's one of the goals for us is to let people know that we're there.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about, so one of the things I'm going to shift a little bit and talk about the spiritual toolkit. And the spiritual toolkit, those are the practices that we have that works for us, right? Each one of us, we create our own little kit, little toolkit. I call it spiritual toolkit. What would you say would be your top three practices?
Hmm. Um, so if I'm feeling down, one thing I make sure I do is I write a letter to myself saying the good things that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
So that uplifts your spirit when you focus on the positive. Um, I definitely, the gym. The gym is all of the spirit that I have, and it just allows me to just be freely me. I try not to change up how I am inside and outside the school because I want to be 100% genuine.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I have to wild out. And I'm on that bike, I'm lifting those weights, I'm dancing, I'm doing whatever I have to. And that's just to get everything to come back together like, all right, you let it out. It's my shouting. That's just my stomping. You know, it's gotta had this day and I need to feel better. So that's what the gym is to me. That's my stomping and my shouting. Um, and something else I'm working on is sleep.
Very important, right?
Sleep is important. Sleep is important. I, it just makes you, you know, you can just function better during the day if you have sleep. You know, that's it. You know, I mean, I do pray, but that's not. I pray is just for me. It's just a regular thing. Thank you, God, for waking me up this morning. Thank you, God, for allowing me to see. Thank you, God, for me allowed to breathe. I have fingers. You know, I'm thankful. But I to have my spirit at the level that it is every day definitely has to be those three. Definitely.
I just thought of what about your kids? Did you raise them in the church and where are they? You didn't.
They're here.
You
No, I didn't in the church. My oldest is still, you know, processing life, and I realized having him that every 20, 21, 22-year old is not an adult. Just because at 21 years old, I had a 1-year-old son and I was already teaching, does not mean the next 21-year-old is going to do the same thing. So that's something I had to learn. I had to like kind of bite that bullet because I was like, why aren't you being productive? Why aren't you? I was already doing this. Or different. And my 17-year-old is a senior in high school. He attends economics and finance on Wall Street, and he is looking to go into nursing. So, yes. And he was like, "Well, should I do a chef thing too? Because he can cook." But I was like, "You can do whatever you want." But it looks like he's going towards UCLA, but I'm not sure. He is looking at his HBCUs, people.
Right. Yeah, because I asked that question too, and just with wondering about kids and spirituality, what are we teaching them? Anything different than the way we were brought up? And I think it's changed and it's kind of different in some circles, I guess. Right.
So funny enough, I was telling my oldest one time to pray on something. I was like, you need to, you know, ask God or something like that. He was like, he doesn't believe in God. I was like, oh Lord. So I was like, well, so who do you believe in? He was like, you. I was like, me. And so I went to my mother. I was like, I asked him, well, who does he believe in? He believes in me. She was like, well, he sees you do everything. Anything that's broken, you fix it. Any meal that needs to be prepared, you got it. Whatever he needs, you have it. So you have been that God for him, you know, not capital G, lowercase g, for him, you know, so he doesn't know. And I was like, wow. Because I know I talk about God.
Right.
I'm thank God this and thank God that. I don't like ugly, and I talk about him. I don't talk about the Bible because I have my reservations about talking about the Bible, even though I like to hear the stories.
Right.
Stories. But anyway.
I know what you're saying though, because it's like they are great stories, but some of it is like, you're not sure about, right? And so I think it's pretty much it's the interpretation of it.
Yes.
Right. I think some of it we can readily interpret and find out how it works for us. And then there are other parts of it where we're like, no, this I don't quite get this, or it doesn't make sense for me.
Right.
So I think that we have a love-hate relationship with the Bible, you know, how we just love some of it, and then there are parts of it we're like, but wait a minute, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I am doing a Bible study on Wednesdays with my brother and sister, and it's been really fascinating to study the Bible. I'm an interfaith minister, so when I was ordained, I studied all religions,
Hmm.
and I grew up in church, but I the Bible was a mystery, right? I guess that's what I call it, right? Because even now, um, when we're studying it and I hear certain verses from the Bible, I know them, I remember them, I'm familiar with the stories and everything, but I don't consider myself like really knowing the Bible.
Right.
So it's really interesting studying the Bible and studying it from a different perspective though of how does it relate to me? What
Mhm.
is the message here? You know how people say the Bible is the way of life, and every way the way you need to live is in the Bible. So then
Basic
how do
instructions before leaving Earth.
right, yeah.
Mhm.
So how do we get those instructions, right? And even like you said, if we're having this like kind of relationship with it, where we get it our instruction from, you
Right.
know, and so yeah, that is
But I think like, because I tell myself, well, is this morally right? Because there's
Mhm,
things that you want to do, and when you second guess yourself,
mhm,
that's when the spirituality comes in. It's like, is this really what I should be doing? Now, if I'm
mhm,
questioning myself, no,
mhm,
and then some
mhm.
people don't have that discipline.
Right, exactly,
So they
exactly.
need the Bible. That's what the Bible's there to give you a little discipline. So you
Mhm,
can just pause it right here. Stop
right.
right here.
And I think, but you got some of that too by going to church when you did and singing, some of it went in, right? You're like, yeah, right.
Some stuff stuck.
Some stuff, and you can remember some of it. But yeah, I always think about that, like in raising kids, because I didn't take my daughter to church. When she was growing up, I was going to Science of the Mind, Church of the Unity. I was moving around, but I wasn't really grounded in any church. But when she would go to home to Memphis for the summer, they would go to church every Sunday. And
Mm,
so that's where she really went to church, not with me, right? But I believe that I taught her some great spiritual practices and a great foundation, but not from a Christian point of view. But
mm,
she got that. And then she decided that she wanted to get baptized and go to church. And that was good at a point where she was able to do that. Because I only went to church to sing in the choir, right? So I love singing. So
uh-huh.
I would, if you had a good choir, I would go to your church so that I could sing right in the
Right.
choir,
Right.
as opposed to a lot of the ministers didn't feed me. I wasn't getting it right, but I would go and I would sing in the choir. And gospel music for me is very spiritual.
Mm,
Right, it's a part of my spiritual practice. I listen to gospel music every single day. I don't sing any choirs since COVID. I was in a choir prior to that, but
mhm.
I still listen to the music and I'm still inspired by it.
Yeah, I love gospel music. I don't know any words to hardly any songs, but just to hear it is
Mhm.
great.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been really good having you on the show. What do you want to leave people with? I think I talked about everything um, with you. Yeah. Um,
I just want everybody to know when you are working with children,
mm,
you have to listen to them. You have to love on them. You have to build that community around them, and everything must be consistent. Love, community, and consistency. Love on these children, and trust me, they will do exactly what they need to do. Cultivate that genius.
okay. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with us. And I look forward to following you and seeing what you do in the community and maybe volunteering sometime. So
Thank
I'll
you.
keep
Thank
in
you. That'd
touch.
be great.
Yeah, and I'll definitely send you the information about the Manhattan Education Opportunity Center so we could spread the word in the community because
Yes.
it's free, free. One thing also I think about, I didn't realize how many New Yorkers did not have a high school diploma.
Mm,
A,
I don't know.
a lot. So we have a free program to support, to get that high school diploma. And our program is really good. But on that note, I will say thank you so much. And I would definitely be in touch with you probably tomorrow to send you all the information.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
All righty. We'll be in touch.
Conversations with Reverend G.
That's right. All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye. Thank you for joining me tonight on Conversations with Reverend G. You can find me here every Monday night at 8 p.m. live on WEMS Radio. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube and Twitch. Each week I have guests. They come and we talk about, we talk about life, we talk about love, we talk about community, we talk about how can we support each other. And one of my goals is to support you in finding joy and living your best life with grace and ease. You can find me every day with inspirational messages on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason. I'm on Instagram as Rev Grenetta. You have a great, great week, and I will see you again right here next week on Conversations with Reverend G.